The year is 475 CE. A plot of land that was once a Gallo-Roman cemetery has been reclaimed as a church by Saint Genevieve, who would become the patron saint of Paris. Fast forward 200 years to the 7th century, where Dagobert I, king of the Franks, would begin constructing the abbey church of Saint Denis. Named after Saint Denis, a bishop in Paris during the 3rd century who was beheaded for his faith. After his decapitation, legend says he carried his head 6 kilometers down a street that is now referred to as Rue des Martyrs, or Martyr Street. It seems only fitting that a bishop with such a gory fate would be the figurehead for the first example of Gothic architecture. In the 12th century, the abbot Suger would complete both the ambulatory and facade of the church. An ambulatory is defined by Oxford Languages as a place for walking, especially an aisle around the apse or cloister in a church or monastery. This space exists just behind the altar in a U-shape to help with circulation, and once provided access to 3 small chapels containing relics. Suger's goal was to open this area and flood the church with light, as he believed it acted as a bridge with the divine. To incorporate this, he used a concept known as lux continua, or continuous light, which can now be found in most Gothic architecture. The church is made up of hand-carved limestone with gray-beige tone, depending on how light hits it. The stone has been sanded down to have a smooth finish, but you can see where each brick has been laid. There are 2 sets of 12 pointed columns surrounding the ambulatory, representing the 12 prophets of the Old Testament and the 12 apostles of the New Testament, and are connected on the ceiling by a series of ribbed vaults. Flying buttresses were added to aid in installing the large stained glass windows, which encapsulate the building, radiating light in various colors across the stone. These design elements combined keep viewers' eyes moving upwards towards the heavens, while not distracting from the altar. One can only assume that from some angles, the building must feel as if it goes on forever. The basilica, just once a small church, has grown into a looming presence. At one point, there stood a 282-foot spire on the north tower, which was deconstructed with plans for a rebuild in the 19th century. The construction should have begun in May of 2020. The building has acted as a blueprint for many other cathedrals across Europe, sharing a similar sullen Gothic aesthetic. Though the outer aspects of the church are shrouded in darkness and mystique, the inner details of stained glass contrast those feelings, making it a beautiful place for worship. As mentioned before, the church was repurposed by Dagobert, initially to be used as a monastery and host relics of the saints. It went on to become the burial place of the kings of France and their families. A key reason for Suger's major transformation was his belief that the current church was ill-suited as the final resting place to such important and noble people. If Saint Denis was to host France's monarch, it had to be divinely represented. The changes he made were based on writings originally thought to be from Saint Denis, but were from a philosopher in the 6th century. These teachings spoke about how light can aid in communication with the Lord. It makes me wonder if Suger had known the true author, would he have still incorporated these designs? These additions to the church helped usher in an entire new era of architecture. Without it, we would not have had Notre Dame and so many other glorious pieces of art. Although I'm no longer practicing, I was raised Catholic and even altar served and attended a Catholic school for 8 years. I've spent many years in churches and have a deep appreciation for the aesthetics used by the church. Saint Denis reminded me of my old school's church. Though a lot smaller, I could see how it was inspired by traditional Gothic churches. Stained glass has a particular place in my heart. Perhaps it was just my youthful imagination, but I always felt the image's emotions change depending on the weather. When it is raining, the people look sad, and when it is bright and sunny, they look happy. While researching Suger's use of light in communication with the divine, I was reminded of this. Even if someone is not practicing a certain religion, it is good to stay open-minded and appreciate the unique beauty of faith. Art influences everything in our lives. The thought of life without Gothic design makes me simply recoil. So much of my personal nature has grown from the